the record reflect all council members present. And we will start with our monthly reports, starting with code.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This just be some highlights from the September timeframe for the code office. We had 65 code inspections during September with 39 permits. Had 9 new business licenses issued. Had 7 businesses that were closed. Major ongoing projects with Walton Behavioral Hospital and Physician Centers 2 at at Clearview, and the Bojangles coming along nicely on North Broad Street. Dolores has been sending out all the renewals for the business licenses, and City Marshal removed 31 signs from the roadway, looked at 78 repair cleanup orders, investigated 4 tampering cases, and issued 3 citations and 7 citations for code violations. Historic Preservation Commission met and granted 3 COAs. And if you have any questions about the balance of the report, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, sir.
Electric and telecom.
Thank you, Mayor. Sold a little over 15.7 million kilowatt hours in the month covered. That makes the bill was about 1.2 million to MEAG. Some items of interest. Y'all remember a week or so ago I sent you an email about a DDoS attack on DNS servers, and basically what that is a denial of service attack on the servers that run the internet. It wiped out a good portion of the Northeast for several hours, and the Department of Homeland Security is expecting that to happen again. If that happens, they'll correct it. It'll take time. There's really nothing we, as a service provider, can do about that. Now, if it happens, I'll let you know in any way I can. We have had several DDoS attacks on us individually over the past couple of weeks. We have handled those. So we'll keep you posted on how that moves forward. The drought is starting to affect the hydroelectric output of the Savannah River, which is the cheapest power we get. I don't expect it to really impact our budget. I just want to get that out there in case it does continue. The drought does continue. They'll start curtailing that back. The lights are powered up on Charlotte Route. They're bright, but it looks good and it looks safe out there as people can see where they're driving. The new CMTS, which will allow us to do faster internet packages to is up and is being configured as we speak. Hope to have that in service sometime first part of December. And we installed our first long shot air fiber shot to a customer, and that is a way to shoot fiber long distance and high capacity. We shot this a little over 1.5 miles to a customer that he paid for all the infrastructure, and we're starting to serve him as we speak. 250 megabits, a little over 1.5 miles with just going through the air. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Let me ask you this. Did that have anything to do with the TV cables or anything like that?
Which one? The DDoS?
Yeah.
No, sir. We had talking about the first of last week, we had some issues with one of our switches failed out. Not our switch, the amplifier failed out. We fixed that.
Are people complaining about that their TV are freezing?
Occasionally, yes. I mean, you have that. But we have that every day. If you have any specific people, I can try to cover for
one
you.
of them.
All right. Well, we need that fixed.
We need to really look into that cable, because I'm telling you, I hadn't been able to watch TV since we changed over.
Well, we should have told me. I got that correct. First I've heard of it from your location. Get with me after the meeting, and I'll get somebody in there straight away.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
No problem.
Finance.
Thank you, Mayor. Real quickly, we'll go into the performance indicators. I want to note across the board, utility customer count is increasing across the board. That's a good thing. At the same time, we are seeing a decrease in our call volume to the call center for problems. We had a little bit of a spike earlier in the year. We got some of our systems sorted out overall. So we had less than 7,000 calls for the month of September. I'll move ahead and go into the financial report. This is for the month of September, period ending. General fund checking is down. We've had some major payments. Also, we did dip into that stabilization fund just at the end of September. We were hoping not to do that. However, this is just really a cash flow timing issue. That will be replenished into October. But overall cash funds in the general fund, governmental funds, are up a pretty good amount, roughly $500,000 over 2015, this time last year. SPLOST is currently sitting at a healthy balance of $2.85 million. That's about $600,000 more than this time last year. And our enterprise funds are continuing their healthy balances as well. No major drawdowns yet, although we have some major CIP projects coming online soon, so we'll be drawing down some of those capital improvement funds as well. Real quickly into the general fund, total revenue is shown at 50%. That's because we didn't estimate anything for the taxes, because those are starting to run in there at the end of September. They'll continue through October, and we'll get our heaviest payments in November. So I wanted to give you kind of a snapshot of where we are September 30th this year versus last year, a little bit better comparison. Our expense side, we're at 73.49%, should be at 75, so just a little bit under budget there. But overall, things are holding steady for the month of September. October report should look a little bit better, as some of our revenues came in a little bit higher than estimated, such as the insurance premium tax, which is one of our major sources of revenue for the general fund. Building permits and fees continue to show strength, and I believe that shows strength citywide for many of our utilities, as well as we get more homes and businesses online. You see total revenue in the combined utilities is at 79.2%. So we're doing well there, and also continuing to hold down our expenses at about 63% for operating. And we'll continue on over to solid waste. Solid waste, again, doing well. 71% revenue for the year, holding down the expense at 61%. Everything is well in line, and I don't anticipate any major operational expenses from solid waste or combined utilities, just operationally speaking, in the near future. And again, SPLOST on the last page there is holding steady, roughly about where we should be in the budget. I'll be happy to take any questions on the financial reports.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you.
Fire department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fire department had 195 calls for service in the month of September, 203 calls at the fire department. Of those calls, 9 were fire, 129 calls were med assist calls, EMS, med assist, vehicle accidents. During the month of September, we assisted Walton County Fire and Rescue twice. They assisted us 6 times. We conducted 148 hours of training and conducted 5 or had 5 public relations events. Pending your questions.
Police department.
Thanks, sir. Police department had 3,458 calls for service in the month of September. Had 1,694 calls to PD, 236 municipal court cases. We conducted 620 hours of training. We logged 53 Part 1 crimes and 157 Part 2 crimes. Arrested 73 adults and 4 juveniles. Had numerous, as you can see listed, public relations events. Pending your questions.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, sir.
Solid waste.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All of our tonnage is trending down for the month of September, right around 400 tons per month. The only other thing I can add is that we're on schedule. All of our service on schedule. I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Danny. Streets and transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just highlighting the report covering the month of September. On the admin side, we rented out the community buildings 4 times. Our fleet maintenance division completed 69 units of work throughout various departments for the city. Our grounds division picked up 1,400 pounds of litter. Our street side has recently completed the 2016 LMIG project list, and they're fixing to pick back up and complete the sidewalk on East Church Street. Sign and markings division completed 52 units of work. Our building maintenance division completed 61 work orders throughout facilities of the city. Just a note, side note, this is about to be our favorite time of year in the Streets and Transportation Department. Our leaf truck is about to be up and running. Our goal is to make one sweep before the Thanksgiving holidays. Once that truck starts running, it'll probably run 50 hours a week till April. Generally is how that works. So get them out if you got them in the yard yet, and we'll start getting them up before Thanksgiving. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Water, sewer, gas, and stormwater.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking over numbers, everything stayed fairly consistent from July, August to September. Treated 81 million gallons of water sent out to the system. Underwater work orders were down slightly, but you can see leaks repaired still fairly high. Wastewater treated 50 million gallons. I'd say that's probably the last month that actually rained in Monroe. Installed 285 feet of sewer pipe that was on Nowell to finish that outfall. Under natural gas, everything stayed fairly consistent. Stormwater as well, and on the training academy at the bottom, we had 7 classes on site with 59 attendees, and that's factoring in the expo that was held. So there are a fewer number of classes, but a high number of trainees that we had. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. That concludes the department reports. We'll move into committee information. Does finance have anything?
We don't have anything tonight,
Okay, Airfield.
Yes, Mayor, we had a committee meeting on October 12th where Larry Fussell and his team continue to make real good progress. One thing we got coming up is the FBO contract approval with Cy Nunley, and I'm going to let Chris touch on that.
Yeah, basically what we're asking for is a acceptance by our committee to bring Cy Nunley with fair weather flights, aircraft maintenance, and management. I think I got that right. N is our FBO. The contract's for a period of 5 years to start 2017. Basically, it fills the void that was left by the late John Reiner with Air Devil Aviation. And we're fortunate to have had him come on board and to basically pick up kind of where everything left off and allow us to basically gain some steam and to make up for lost time that we've had at the airport with an FBO coming to us. So asking for the approval of the contract.
Councilman Purvis, I just need to put on the record that Mr. Nunley is related to me by marriage, so I did draft this agreement and then learned that Mr. Nunley was the targeted FBO participant. So I just want that potential conflict, I don't think it's a technical conflict, but that potential conflict to be on the record that Mr. Nunley is my father. Somebody. He's an in-law, so in-law outlaw.
Make a motion.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we,
You entertain a motion. This is committee.
okay.
You need to ask your committee for a motion for the contract.
Yeah, anybody like to make a motion to approve the contract?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passed. That's it?
Okay. That'll come before full council next week. Item number 3, Public Works.
Mr. Mayor, we have
three items. First of all, the lease agreement at the community building for the Civil Air Patrol. If you'd like to share that one.
I can, Chris may want to. Basically,
It's just a lease agreement
Yeah.
that we,
It's picking back up a renewal essentially of the lease agreement we had in 2016 for the Civil Air Patrol to provide the facilities at the community building. I'm not 100% sure how many days of each month, but to essentially to allow them to meet on a monthly basis once again carrying into 2017 is the request.
we need to commit it to, and I'll entertain a motion that we submit to the full council the approval of this lease agreement.
So move.
Have moved and seconded. Does anybody have any more statements, any more questions or comments? And all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Okay, we'll take that one to the council next week. The next item is the 2017 LMIG.
I will take that, Mr. Bradley, thank you. Tonight I'm asking for approval of this 2017 LMIG project list. Basically, it's going to be a little over 2 miles of paving. Just a little background on the LMIG. That is a state-funded program that requires a local match. This year, the LMIG allocation went up statewide 30%, I think, is about right, which requires a 30% match. So we're getting more money, but our match is a little bit more. But essentially, we're going to be able to do almost $200,000 worth of work for roughly $45,000. So the program's a great program. It's intended for local municipalities to improve their roadways, and in doing so, we have an assessment done citywide of the pavement condition index of our streets and our roadways to see what needs what. It's in a software system, and it basically tells you what needs what application. So with that application, these names of these streets and areas come out. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are in the Meadowwalk subdivision in phase 2. They were never topped out, and I think the city has taken ownership of that, and we need to finish those up. The next one is Masters Drive. It's just the entrance, the main road into that subdivision, Golfview, Etten Drive, and Baker Street. And most of them are going to be overlays. The last 3, Masters Drive, Etten Drive, and Baker Street, are going to require some deep patching and then an overlay. And basically this is just seeking approval to be able to get this turned into the state and be eligible to receive our money.
Mr. If I understand correctly, that in the Meadowwalk over there, there's a surface, but it's not.
There is a base surface.
Surface, but not a ribbon.
Yes, sir. It's not been topped out. It needs an 1.5 inch overlay to complete the overall infrastructure of phase 2 of that subdivision, the backside of that subdivision.
That base was put down by the developer.
Yes, sir.
Correct. But they did not put.
They did not top it out. And,
We didn't require bond on them?
I think
Or
somebody,
did the bond company go out of business?
2 or 3 folks went bankrupt. Not sure how all of that.
It was bonded at the time, but the developer went under and the bank did a clawback of pretty much all their assets and left holding the bag.
But they are in dire need to be, there's some safety issues out there. They are in need of being brought up to speed with the rest of that subdivision. So they're included in this year's project list.
But we can do all that for roughly 40,000 or so for that subdivision.
It's
correct?
15.
No, it's a little bit, it's about 40. Because you got Meadowwalk Drive for 26. And this just covers material. This list is, project cost is material only.
And there's no way we're gonna get any money back on that bond, is that right?
And you'll do this work yourself?
Yeah, we'll do all this in-house.
And when you're figuring the material, it's not the whole project that you're figuring. So it will be out of pocket with the 44,000 forward. our part of the material. Is that right?
No, not technically. Typically, we use labor and equipment as our match. So it's good money.
That's what I was saying, but then the list was on the material.
Yeah. But then the part on Ammons and on Masters though, and in those Baker Street areas, that the streets that have just gotten bad and need to be patched up and then paved over. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? Okay.
One question. Is the school bus actually, Walton County Schools, are they actually going into this subdivision and dropping, or are they just stopping at the entrance?
I don't know. You talking about from Meadowwalk? As big as that subdivision is, I can't imagine a kid having to walk to the back. I would assume they use
They go in.
Meadowwalk Drive as.
Okay, I wonder.
Any other questions or comments on that one? Do I hear a motion that we recommend to the council approval of this project list?
I'll make that motion.
A motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, we'll move that to the council for next week. The next is the right-of-way acquisition for the Spring Street project of getting the sidewalk out of Spring Street. Sure, you can cover that one too. Who's covering that one?
I can take that one, Mr. President.
Okay.
This is for approval of a contract with Keckenwood Engineers for a not-to-exceed price of $57,330. This covers pre-acquisition and acquisition of right-of-way along Spring Street, West Spring Street, for the sidewalk project. It's going to go roughly from in front of Childers Park on the opposite side of the street all the way up to the intersection at MLK. Keckenwood is going to be enlisting, I guess, a subcontractor, for lack of a better term, the Prima Q group. I assume that's how it's pronounced. They've handled the LCI North Broad project. It's been pretty successful. I think all the parties involved have been happy with their services. But Keckenwood, we will be paying them, and they will be overseeing that process for us for the acquisition of the right-of-way. And just a side note, the total right-of-way costs we estimate at about $60,000 for that strip down West Spring Street.
And look, do we have an estimate of when this right-of-way acquisition should occur?
Immediately. That's why I went ahead and got it on the agenda right now, so they can start within the next week or so.
And do they think they know how long it'll take them to complete that?
It really depends on working with the landowners involved. North Broad has gone pretty quickly.
State normally gives you 12 months to acquire right away, which
I anticipate
is typically
we'll be
way
well
less than
within
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope it'd be
Oh, absolutely.
well within that. Just ask that question.
Speaking with Keckenwood, they believe, we can probably start actual construction sometime this spring.
Mr. Larry, just to comment on that, because those right-of-way closings end up in our office. North Broad has gone very well with this firm, but there aren't a lot of corporate owners on North Broad. Spring Street is going to have some corporate owners outside of the city that may take a little bit longer. So I would expect it's going to take several months for the right-of-way acquisition, but hopefully I'm just ballparking 4 or 5 months. You should be able to have it all done and get your construction going.
I think we're all anxious to see that project move, dirt move like that.
Absolutely.
Any questions or comments on that?
I got a quick question, Lord. When is the North Broad project going to actually be where you can actually see something going on?
As soon as we can finish closing out the rest of the right-of-way.
Well, I can tell you, you're about to see some stuff pretty soon. I've been working with the engineers to start moving some power line poles out of the way, some that are interfering with that project. So that's starting hopefully in the next 3 weeks. I've got to do some work with the water plants and stuff like to move some of those poles out of the way. But that's moving along a lot quicker than I expected.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion that we approve the contract with Keckenwood not to exceed $57,330.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Okay, we'll recommend to the full council next week approval of that contract. Mr. Mayor, that's all that we have.
All right, moving to utilities.
Thank you, Mayor. First item is the purchase of a mapper kit.
Yes, sir. We're asking for approval to purchase a PCM current mapper, which gives us the ability on the natural gas side to, actually any pipes, to detect the actual depth of a line as opposed to just locate where it is from a physical standpoint. And on the natural gas side, it gives us the ability to detect the coating that's actually on steel pipe, which is something that we'll have to remain in compliance with the new PSC laws that are coming into effect in 2017. Currently, we outsource it, pay this to a contractor anytime we have to have this, but having the actual equipment will help us, and it also will bring us into compliance going forward. So.
And I think the recommended purchase of this for that stated $11,023.
Yes, sir.
And that's the work, it's 3 bids enclosed, and that's the lowest bid. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I think I understood earlier on this that this will allow us to look at existing pipes and map them throughout the city and identify which ones may be potential problem areas in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's what I understood also.
And it'll digitally map everything. It stores everything that we have, and it basically will interface with other systems so that we can view everything, and you're basically creating a digital map of your system. So it benefits us quite a bit.
It should enable us to plan
Yes.
for future problems before they occur.
That's the hope.
That's the, yeah. Mr. Bradley, just to let you know, locates are up under my department, and missing a gas locate, if you miss one, it's $5,000 every time you miss one.
Yeah.
And we hadn't missed one in a couple of years, but this will help us not miss any more with building coming back.
A lot of times they have to dig down and open up potholes to find depth before they.
Especially a lot of the old stuff that's put in years and years and years ago.
If I understand right, this $11,000 is actually going to save us money.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
By purchase. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve this.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We recommend that. Council. Next item is approval of some out-of-state travel.
Yes, sir. It's to request to send 2 employees from the water department to Tallahassee, Alabama, where Neptune holds their meter training. It's where their meter school is located, which is currently the type of meter that we have in the system. It's basically the 2 positions, our new meter specialist and leak detection positions, to send them so that they can get educated on the meters, from the physical workings of the meter to the actual radio reads, to be able to test these meters in-house, which will help us because that's something that we have to outsource to a third party. And basically to go into the field and troubleshoot a meter on the spot as opposed to having to call somebody in. The total request is for $1,420. That's hotel, accommodations, class, everything.
And the meters are the new water kit.
Yes, sir.
That we just installed.
Correct.
Any other questions? Get a motion to approve the out-of-state travel, $1,428.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We recommend that. Approval of council. Approval of the council chamber remodel.
Wait, you skipped one.
You skip one.
It's on the water. It's the wastewater
The
treatment.
water treatment plant roof repair.
Yeah, it'll actually be at the wastewater facility, not the water plant, so a little bit of a typo. The approval's requesting that we allow Horizon Roofing to come in and they can replace our membrane roofs on, they've got listed building A, B, and C, which will be your chlorine building, your primary building, your digester. It is a CIP project for 2016, and it basically continues in line and that should be the last 3 buildings that we need to replace the roofs on at the wastewater plant, which will, let's hope those are the last ones that we have to replace. But the request is for $56,931. They were the low bid.
It's my understanding on this roof repair that it is desperately needed. The membrane, the roof
Yes.
that's on it is the original roof from 1980.
80 something.
It's been patched up and it's been looked at to even change the type of roof, to do like a metal roof or something, but it's not felt that that can be done for this price.
No.
And how does this 56,000 compare to what we had put in CIP?
He had, I believe, 150,000 in CIP to basically go with the gable roof.
So this is about a third of what we had
Correct,
originally
and
budgeted.
comes with a 2-year warranty. 5 years
Current
on
roof
material.
is in bad shape, and you wonder about the structure under it. Well, it seems
Right.
that the basic roof of the thing is concrete, and everything will be removed, and this will be new altogether going back up. And it's about to the point where it really, and these buildings, even if there is an expansion or remodel of the treatment plant, these buildings will still be used.
Yeah.
I make
Any
a
other
motion for
questions?
approval. I move approval.
Is there a second? Motion is second. Is there, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? That carries. We recommend that then to the full council. Now, approval of the council chamber remodel.
Yeah, me again. Yeah, this is bringing back to the council the requested remodel and basically the setup of the council chambers here, along with the audio, video equipment that is in dire need of upgrade and replacement. I'll tell you the couple of options that we've got, and then I'll take any questions, and I'll get Brian to help me out on the communication side. The low bid for the total purchase is actually $85,639. That is factoring in premium construction, its build price, but they cannot start until January. If you add in J Key Construction, which is the second low bid, which brings the total to $99,390, roughly $14,000 difference, they can start essentially the Wednesday after the council meeting, provided everything's approved. So it's kind of to the option of the council as to what you wish to do.
Run that by me again.
Essentially, the low bid from Premium Construction, they can't start until January, to whereas J Key Construction for the added 14,000 can start in November. Here in the next week.
I would say since we're not on a time frame, $14,000 is a whole lot of money to spend.
I would agree.
My question, when I looked at that, Chris, maybe you got a better feel for it, is you got 2 bids that are $30,000 plus, and another one, the third one's about half that.
We double checked to make sure that they had everything. It's the exact same thing that the other 2 bids are. And they're, they've got everything covered, so we're good. I mean, they just came in incredibly low, which is a good thing a lot of times.
And they have a good reputation.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it was just such a big difference.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shock, but a welcome one.
Chris, are y'all making a recommendation on the audio audiovisual equipment also?
Yeah, it's everything. That price included everything. It's to buy essentially the chassis channel, all the storage equipment from Clark Powell for the $25,381. I've essentially got 3 in here. And then B&H Photo to provide the cameras, monitors, switchers for an additional $43,273. And then the actual construction would be the $16,985. So it's all 3 wrapped up into one.
For a total of 85 plus.
Yes, ma'am.
The AV equipment,
Yes, sir.
I know we've had a lot of complaints on this in the past.
Oh, wait, it's about big.
Does this replace everything? These mics, the
Yes, sir.
cameras?
Yes, sir.
It's a whole.
No, the only option that I would throw out there that y'all could, you just tell me which direction you want to go. We've got 4 cameras now, and we're only utilizing, I think, 1 of them now because the way the switch control gear is broken. Each camera is around a little over $8,000. I could drop a camera and save $8,000, but I just went, since we're so much under budget, what we had asked for last year, I just went ahead and went back and replaced exactly what we have. This gets them in HD. This gets put on the cable plant in HD and SD, and it corrects all those switching errors that we've had by changing the electronics, which is the device that actually schedules and manages getting stuff on the system. All that equipment, Mr. Bradley, was bought in whenever this bill was by '01, so it's a little longer too. It's been around a while. We've been patching it together for a while.
These are all fixed cameras.
No, these are all fixed now because the controller's broken. The new ones will be pan, tilt, zoom.
New ones will be what?
Pan, tilt, zoom. They'll be able to turn.
They'll be fixed.
Zoom.
I mean, fixed mean.
You can.
Oh yeah, they'll be on those same mounts.
They'll be attached.
The plan is to adapt these mounts, take these mounts, cut the top of them off, and weld a new plate to put the new camera
So if we wanted to do a video,
in here. It'd have to be in
it'd
here.
have to be in
Yes,
here.
sir.
But we could do it with
Do
this.
whatever you want to. Yes, sir.
And the acoustics in this room, now
Mr.
that,
Mr. Little's already been on me about that, and we're gonna address those the best way we can. The problem with this room is the walls. We did these little square brackets to try to break that up when they built the building, but it didn't do that much of a job, that good of a job. We've got some options that we're gonna try, but the first options are to cut these lines of speakers off, have the ability to cut those off, because that's what gives us the feedback when y'all are speaking, or when somebody's at the pedestal or the podium speaking. When you talk, all that feedback just drowns right back in that thing. So I think we're going to try the cheap way first, cut these off and see if that works. If not, I think we can, like Mr. Little said earlier, we could put some speakers along the wall and sort of aim them back at the crowd. But this room is
because
terrible, has terrible
honestly,
acoustics.
we can spend $85,000, and if we don't have the acoustics right,
Well, it'll get on the TV right. I don't know, I've got to work on the room, but it'll get on the TV right.
If the cameras are gonna be somewhat remote, swivel, turn, or whatever, will
Yes, sir.
3 cameras cover this room? Cover the angle?
At times they would, depends on, and this is going to be a fixed podium at that time. You know, once we do this will be fixed. We won't be rolling this in and out, changing this room around. In my opinion, yes, but you might, in the future, you might miss something.
How will this affect where you guys are sitting now?
They're going to split us up.
Yeah,
like that because
I
the
think
drawing-
it's set up
drawing.
4 or 5 seats on one side and then on the other side.
And the reason for that, Mr. Bradley, is ADA, the American Disabilities Act. We have to have a way for a wheelchair to be able to access that area. So we have to have one area with a ramp. So we have to split these
Yeah,
up.
essentially cut this in
Will
half and
those
move half over.
seats have microphones also?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
They have them now, they just don't work.
Is there any more discussion? Is there a motion?
I move we recommend this to the council.
Motion, is there a second? Second. Motion second, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
And that is to take the one starting in January, correct?
Yeah.
The
But I'm going to
85.
follow that with what Ms. Malcolm said is, if we're going to spend this money, let's make this room right.
I agree.
There's a motion second, but we had a vote. Is anybody opposed? And the motion passes, you recommend to council. Mayor, I guess that's all we got.
Okay. Public safety, have anything?
No, sir, Mayor. Public safety does not.
Okay. Economic development?
I have a couple things for you tonight. One is a reminder that Thursday night is Light Up the Night. All our lights downtown will be coming on. It'll be the grand reopening of the museum. Shops will stay open late, and with our new retail stores, all of the shops have come together. They're going to be staying open late every Thursday through November all the way up till Christmas. We're having a lot more traffic in the evenings, and so we're trying to capitalize on that and extend hours. So that begins this Thursday. It's also an art walk. There'll be live music downtown. We also have new sculptures going up with Sculpt Monroe. This is the second round of 18-month installations of local sculptures. So you'll see those in the same approved spots as last time, but we have 7 sculptures this time instead of 4. So you'll see those going up around town. So that's this Thursday, and this Friday is the cleanup day, our neighborhood cleanup day. We did one in the spring, we'll be doing it again on Friday out in front of City Hall. We'll have lots of teams coming to pick up trash and get stuff out of the right-of-ways and in neighborhoods. So we'll disperse, we'll meet at 9 a.m., disperse all over the city, come back, and we'll weigh our tickets, see who collected the most trash, and they'll be our big winners for the day. So we'll have reports on totals with that, and this is one of the efforts of the housing team. Also wanted to give you an update that the CHIP grant is underway. Our administrator has been taking phone calls and taking names locally. We have way more people interested than we have funds to renovate their homes, but this is a good start, and we're going to work on that list to do future funding, hopefully, if this goes well. So that's for our CHIP grant. The last thing will take a little bit longer, but all of you have a booklet in front of you, and this is a design portfolio that was put together for us. And I want to read the inside page, and I have a digital presentation too so that everyone else could see what was put together. But I want to read this to you first. This is part of the Georgia Downtown Renaissance Fellows Program. And it puts together resources from a number of organizations: the Georgia Municipal Association, the Georgia Cities Foundation, the Carl Vinson Institute of Government, and the University of Georgia College of Environment and Design. So the GMA and the Georgia Cities Foundation chose Monroe. We were one of 3 cities that were chosen to take part in the 2016 Georgia Downtown Renaissance Fellows Program. It says here that partner cities are selected based on the criteria of strong local leadership, community commitment, and fiscal readiness to act on projects. We're very proud of what was put together and what the student did. She's an undergrad at UGA. She came to Monroe, she met with me and Leanne, we walked around the city, and she took 4 projects from our downtown master plan and kind of flesh those out further. So let me get the presentation here, and then you can flip through in the booklet. I wanted to show everyone else what she put together. And again, these are just design concepts. There's not funding at this point set aside to do these. So let me grab this. All right, that barely stretches. Flip in the booklets. The 4 projects she chose, we'll just turn there on that first page. These are the 4 that she chose to kind of look at more in depth. One was the place of arrival and signage at the 78 and 11 intersection with the bridge. The other was taking 2 parcels and designing some mixed-use infill development on those parcels. Another was a Midland Avenue retrofit, which takes Midland Avenue and continues the concept already present in the downtown master plan of the pedestrian trail and the rail corridor, and extends it all the way along Midland. And then the last was a town green park. So if you'll turn the page there on the next one, it shows you the Georgia 11 bridge. So this is the current conditions. You just drive under it, and I know from Georgia Department of Transportation, this bridge is in a pretty rough shape. I don't know when they'll be repairing it. And this is one of the difficulties in this corridor, is we do have to work with Georgia DOT to figure out what would be allowed. So an interesting thing she proposed, and this is the signage coming in on Highway 78. What she proposed was this process of reverse graffiti. So you basically pressure wash the dirt off to create signage or an image or art. Very inexpensive, and it'd be a creative, temporary way to make that bridge a little more interesting and kind of give you a sense that you have arrived somewhere. She also proposed lights and a night view. Again, not sure if DOT would go for this, but it's a very creative way to make you feel like you're in a place. Also talked about getting our current restaurants and updating our signs with DOT, and our Convention and Visitors Bureau can look into this and ways to partner with businesses so that we can update that signage. And she also, even just a simple process of regreening the median, new flowers, that will be a way to make the corridor more inviting. The mixed-use infill, this is the first parcel, and this is privately owned. It's right across from City Hall at Highland and Broad Street. And right now the owner allows the city to use it as public parking, but that's actually 2 parcels there. So what she proposed is that if there were a way to do a partnership, it's just an aerial map, on this parcel, it's the same parcel, there's the aerial view. So there's a lot of parking there and a lot of asphalt. But on this space, you could do a multi-story mixed-use building with lofts above and retail, and this would now be the welcoming corridor coming in, the first building you see that feels like you're in downtown. So that's a 3-story building. We have a 2-story height restriction in downtown, but we do have 3-story buildings existing, the Walton Hotel. So there is some historic precedence for this. So that's the first building suggested. The next is on the Wayne Street lot. It's there at Wayne Street and Spring. So this is behind the police department. It's another public parking lot. And the city owns most of the block because we also own the portion at the other end of the block where the water tower is. And so what she proposed was if the city was able to acquire all of the parcel, you could do a parking garage screened by retail and mixed use. And this is the rendering that she put together for this. And again, that's lofts and living above and commercial on the base level. This is another unique thing that we have downtown. We have this alley, but it opens up into a courtyard. And we've done some inexpensive upgrades to the alley with starting partnering with the Art Guild to get a mural going and stringing lights in the alleyway. But when you walk into the alley, and currently cars do use this, DOT has requested, I believe, that we stop the traffic exiting onto Broad Street because it actually goes across the sidewalk and into a crosswalk when you exit a car onto Broad Street there. And it's limited visibility. But when you go into it, she proposed to make it more limited, no car access, green it, make it kind of a public space where people would go, and like another pocket park that we have downtown. When you get, this is what's currently there. When you walk into the alley, it opens up into this courtyard. The buildings on the right, which you can't see, are inactive at this point. They're storage, and they don't have any retail activity or commercial activity in them. But this is what she proposed, is that it could be another courtyard space and possibly activate those buildings to become something that contributes to downtown commercially. For Midland Avenue, the idea here is to make this a pedestrian-focused corridor rather than streets only. And then you have Broad Street and then Madison Avenue that would be primarily car traffic, but have this for bikes and pedestrian and some cars based on the current use, but to do a road diet and slim that down so that it's more open for pedestrians. She did each section of Midland because each little section has a different makeup with the present conditions. So the first is the rail corridor, and this is the view from Davis Street. And what she's proposing is a path alongside the railway. And this shows a 10-foot path with about a 5-foot buffer, and it would be open for cycling and walking. There's that design. This is on the other side of Davis Street. This is currently privately owned, and it's a gravel parking area. And what she's proposing is to extend the trail, but also provide more areas for bike racks and parking for people to park, and kind of this would be a trailhead for the trail. Here's the aerial view where you can see all the additional parking that could be added. Shared lanes would be what would happen on the rest of Midland Avenue, so you would have cars that travel, but it would be a shared lane with biking as well, and because they would be smaller lanes and wider sidewalks, it lends itself to slower traffic, and if you need to go somewhere quick, you would tend to avoid this way. So this is the current conditions on Midland. That's Peters and Foster's and behind the courthouse, and this is what we're proposing. So smaller lanes where bike traffic would have just as much right of way as the cars, greenery and sidewalks, and this continues it down to here on continuing Midland on where it gets past Highland and near William Street. And this could go all the way to Marable, so all the way to the water plant. And what this potentially could do if the trail system was all in place, if we're able to do this over many years, we would be connecting green spaces throughout town. It would connect Felker Park to a central green space, and then potentially the old elementary school could become another town center green space as well. And that's what this would look like. In your books, it's in here, but she added another part to it, which was making Madison have the same streetscaping that matched Broad Street, with the North Broad and South Broad streetscape projects that are happening. So extending the sidewalks, putting the brick pavers, and also the historic lighting, so that it also now feels like a downtown corridor. The last thing she proposed was taking this parcel, which is adjacent to this trail corridor, and this is currently bank-owned with no activity for quite some time. There's the aerial view. And developing all the green space into a town park. And she put lots of different concepts into this, including, from this angle, an entryway, bike racks, kind of a fountain feature. At the other end, but this is the current view, proposed an amphitheater, a splash pad, another pathway that cuts through from the parking all the way to Madison on the other side. Here she proposed an outside terraced garden area that could be rented or used for events. And then this is the view looking towards Church Street. She proposed an infill building could go on that end, where it opens onto Church Street and back onto the green, kind of framing the green space. She also did, oh, this didn't show up. It shows up in your books. It's the cost estimate of all these items. You can see the big total there for the town green, and she's basing that on other community expenditures. Splash pad would be about $250,000 of this, so that's a big portion of it, and the rest would be the grassing, the benches, all the things that it takes to do the curb and gutter streetscaping around this. These are the trees that she recommended. It's College of Environmental Design. And that's the main presentation. I wanted you to take the books and be able to look through it and just have this on the radar. We would like to, our EDA board's already reviewed it. We've been just trying to share this around and just get people's reaction. And obviously it's very positive, but these projects are large projects and would take a lot of funding and some planning over time. So I wanted all of you to see it, and we'd be happy to get your feedback over the next few weeks. Any questions at this point?
I say down a question. Much of this obviously would take public-private partnerships to be done. The Midland Avenue, both on the end hill as well as down by the rail, are things that would not be public-private, would probably be city funded.
Yes, because it would be using city streets for most of it, but the rail corridor would still have to be a public-private partnership.
Right. But on the city part, if we were looking at doing that, is there grant money available that might allow us to do that rather than come out of general fund?
We would be able to apply for LCI grants again, which is the same thing that is funding the North Broad project. There were not a lot of dollars allocated for that last year for all the Atlanta Regional Commission, and we did apply and did not get that one. So I know that that's one route. I'm sure I'd have to talk with Jeremiah. I'm sure there are other options when it comes to streets, but I don't know if those are dependent on need and failing infrastructure. So I think there are things out there. There is actually a resolution item for discussion on the agenda, which is a trail grant, which could do that first 2,900 feet of the trail in the rail corridor, and that's through the Department of Natural Resources. So I think that's what we'll have to do, is kind of just do a portion at a time when funding becomes available, or funding opportunities where we can get grants.
And say in our DDA long-range planning meeting, we did pinpoint that possibly we could identify Monroe on the bridge at 78, and that might be a feasible one-year out project, and then also to work on signage.
Yes.
And possibly take those old signs as you come into the gateways that were utilized by Kiwanis and Rotary years and years ago, and maybe do something, but I don't know if that's gone any further. Has any more research been done on those?
We tried to figure out who actually oversees those, and it sounds like the city kind of maintains them. We need to, I think Rotary built them years ago, so we just want to make sure that they would be fine with us adding to it. It's 4 signs. They're on, actually it's only 3 now. There's one on 83 coming in from Unicia Drive, and then there's 2 on 11.
And they're there, but they're not real noticeable. So we could enhance those. And
I think the entryways, the gateway sign, particularly, I think the bridge up on 11 and the signs leading up to it, what you typically see on expressway signs. And particularly what's recommended here as far as the city sign. I think we need to be looking at how we incorporate that fairly soon. That should not be a long-range project.
Well, forever we've gotten lost, you know, on that Loop 10 corridor. So many people say I've been by Monroe, but I've never really been through.
So I think we need to see what we need to do for that soon.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, item upcoming for discussion, we have upcoming public hearings. Conditional use at 1031 Charlotte Rowell Boulevard.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Like I said, this is at 1031 Charlotte Rowell Boulevard. They're applying for a conditional use to build an apartment complex at that location. Planning zoning met last week and recommended to deny the motion. The code department also recommends to deny based on the fact that the future land use plan shows that as retail and commercial development on that corridor, as well as the fact that we have currently about a 66% rental rate in our single-family and multifamily dwellings in the city. So that's that one. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them.
Okay, the next one's a variance for a sign at 127.5 North Broad Street.
Yes, sir. Let me make sure I'm talking about the right one because the same applicant has two. This first one at 127.5 is JEC Development. They're looking for a variance on a sign that's already in place, but it's unpermitted, illegal, and non-conforming. So I'm trying to work with them on a way to allow them to utilize the sign since it's there. Right now, I've recommended, and the Planning Commission also recommended denial of the proposal because we've asked them to bring it in conformance with the planned center sign, which only allows for an overall 10-foot height maximum. Their sign's currently 12 feet. I haven't proposed it to the Drapers yet. That's JEC Development. But something that could be considered on this to possibly allow it is, as a planned center sign, they're allowed up to 100 square feet as a sign. So if they were to widen it and lower it, they'd actually get more square footage, and they'd be able to accommodate the signage that they want without having the cars block the lower signs. They could go wider instead of higher. So that would be something we could possibly work with them on. But if they don't care to move in the direction of conformity, since it was never permitted in the first place and it's non-conforming, we recommend denial on that one.
Wayne Street or North Broad you're talking about?
Well, the sign is on a parcel that fronts on North Broad, so we're using that address.
Okay.
The Lady building.
But it's really in the back.
But it is on Wayne Street.
But that's not, there is also a Wayne Street sign.
There is also a Wayne Street sign specific to Wayne Street address, yes. So any questions on the metal monolith?
All right, now you can address the Wayne
Yes,
Street
sir.
sign.
The Wayne Street sign is an existing non-conforming sign that would be allowed to normally remain, except for the fact that the zoning ordinance and the rewrite of the sign portion anticipated getting rid of these types of signs, which is a pylon sign, internally illuminated, plastic face type sign, when the opportunity arose. And that was at the point where the sign needed to be refaced for a new occupant. So that sign's also being recommended for denial for refacing and asking them to put a sign, replace it with a sign that's in conformance with the sign ordinance.
The one on Wayne Street, that's not the one that he had the lot of little, like 12 by 18 by 18.
Well, the first sign we spoke about is the one you're asking about. They're both on Wayne Street, but one of them applies to a building that only has the North Broad Street address. That's the metal one that you're talking about with all the different parts. And then the other one is a pylon sign that was last for the Avenue, which was a church and coffee shop.
So y'all making a motion to deny both of them?
Yes, sir. I mean, on the first one, if they wanted to try and work with us and get in compliance with the parameters of a planned center sign, then we'll be glad to work with it. I'm reaching out as far as I possibly can reach. But if we can't get it in conformance, then yeah, we recommend deny it. But I prefer to
And
allow
from
them to use
there, would they have to tear it down?
I'm sorry?
If they are not willing to work with us, what, would it be torn down?
It would need to be removed if it can't be brought into conformance. I've been trying, a little backstory on the first one, sorry, we're going back to 127 and a half Broad Street. That sign has been developing piece by piece over about a 4-year period. The entire 4-year period, I've been trying to get them to remove the sign because it was unpermitted and non-conforming and illegal. At this point, as I've started our little program of getting rid of signs that are no longer conforming, I sent them a letter back earlier in the year asking them to remove it, at which time they asked me for more time because they're going on some cross-country trip. Again, continuing to work with them as best we could. We allowed them that extra time. They're back in town now, and we're addressing the issue at this point. I also, if I can switch back to the 118 Wayne Street sign that we're on, that sign's being recommended for denial, and I also wanted to make sure that I wasn't being overbearing with the interpretation of the sign ordinance, so I asked the city attorney to look at the issue, and they also came up with the same. Well, there's a letter involved, included in here with their recommendation and determination that it should also be removed. So, anyhow, any further questions on either one? I know we've gone back and forth a little bit.
There'll be hearings on that next week, is that correct?
That's correct.
There'll be a public hearing on that next week.
Yes, sir.
Okay. No questions on that. Item number 2 is just the approval of the chamber contract we do every year. I think the fee is about the same. Is that right, Logan?
Yes. Basically, it's $4,800 for the year, which is based on 35 cents per person based on a 2015 population estimate. It runs July through June. A little bit late getting the contract from the chamber. Terry's going to be here to give us a presentation next week.
Okay. Item number 3 will be approve the personnel policies and procedures amendment. I want to speak on it.
I can handle that real quickly. What we're trying to do is make it to where we can do internal posting for any jobs that come available. Kind of gives city employees something to aim for if they feel they have the qualifications, and if they do have those qualifications, we can fill it internally and then backfill their position either with an internal posting or an outside posting. If not filled, that posting will then roll into an outside posting if we don't find any qualified internal candidates. This is a fairly common practice in a lot of governments. We just haven't had that here, so we're bringing it to the table.
Okay. Item number 4 is just the second reading of the property maintenance section 18-252 ordinance amendment. Item 5 will be the second reading of the nuisance section 42-98 ordinance amendment. Item 6 will be the second reading of the offenses and miscellaneous provisions section 62-9 ordinance amendment. Item 7 will be the second reading of the offenses and the miscellaneous provisions section 62-10 ordinance amendment. Item number 8 will be the resolution of the recreational trail grant application, which Sadie mentioned a while ago. Item number 9 will be the resolution of the general obligation bond refunding. Anybody want to say anything?
Logan, I can fill in, but I think Logan should probably handle that.
Okay.
Yeah, on the bond refunding. What we have here is the general obligation bond refunding. We've been going through a lot of work to get the utility bond refunding on the way through the door, and as such, we found it advantageous to add the general obligation bond to the mix for not a whole lot of extra work. And we're going to be saving about $78,000 in the end with the general obligation bond. That's for 3 years remaining on that term. I was hoping to hit $100,000, but the market has a little bit of movement here lately. But overall, it's a good deal for us. You know, it saves, you know, close to $30,000 in the first year, and then, you know, 20 some odd thousand in the next couple of years. So it's a good deal for us regardless. And this resolution just finishes that piece for the general obligation.
Okay.
And essentially, these two refinances, these bonds will just happen simultaneous. This GO refunding is just tagged on. Essentially, it's completely separate, but because we're already doing one, it works real easily. Just go ahead and do the second one at the same time, since there's positive net savings.
Yeah. One other quick thing on the positive net savings. Industry standard is about 3% savings. If you can exceed that, we did exceed that on the GO bond. On the utility side, we're seeing close to 10% savings. So that's pretty significant. $2 million gross net is almost $1.6 million. So that's a win all the way around.
We have items requiring action tonight. First item is execution of the term sheet utility bond refinancing.
So the term sheet that I've got here before you, we did paper copies because this kind of came to us hot and late. We didn't get that included on the electronic agenda. Basically, the term sheet is what we have to turn back into Hancock Whitney Bank for the 2016 utility bond refinancing. They were one of the lower bidders. We had another low bidder that had a floating rate. We didn't really feel comfortable with the floating rate, and they were also not real happy with waiting around for council approval. They kind of wanted it right then. So we've decided to go with Hancock Whitney Bank. This term sheet just lays out our rate, 2.19% interest, which again, you know, is substantial savings for us. We'll be doing semi-annual payments and just a few other minor things that we tidied up as far as our reporting requirements with them. So I went ahead and signed that, turned it into them last Friday afternoon, and all we need from you is just approval of that action to be spread upon the minutes.
Okay. Any questions for Logan? If not, we need a motion to accept the utility bond refinancing. Motion by Mr. Adcock.
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. All in favor? Any opposed? That passes. Item number 2 is first reading of the utility revenue bond refunding ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I don't know if Logan wants to say anything else on this. This is the utility bond refinancing that you had previously approved going forward with Stiefel, and we've got this in order and ready to go. You'll have to bear with me. It will take a moment. I will be as quick as possible, but let me give you just a 5-second version of what the time frame is moving forward. Tonight will be first reading of the bond ordinance for the refunding of the bonds, the 2003 and 2006, as well as 1 G loan. We will do second reading next Tuesday. We'll adopt it then. Then, as y'all probably know, we have to file validation papers in Walton County Superior Court to validate the bond refunding. We will file those on November the 10th. We'll then advertise with the Tribune on the 16th and the 23rd of November, and then we will have a validation hearing on November the 30th at 9:30 a.m. in Walton County Superior Court, and bond counsel has tentatively set the closing for the refinancing on December the 8th. So that's the time frame. So this will get refunded before the end of the calendar year. And of course, it keeps the principal reduction payments the same as they already were. So with that, I'll give you this first reading, and it will take you just a moment. This is a bond ordinance to provide for the issuance by the City of Monroe, Georgia of its combined utility revenue refunding bond series 2016, to provide for the issuance under certain terms and conditions of additional parity bonds, to provide for the creation and maintenance of certain funds, to provide for remedies for the owners of said bonds and for other purposes. Whereas the city of Monroe, Georgia owns and operates a combined water and sewer system, gas distribution system, electric distribution system, and cable television system. And whereas the city has previously issued its Combined Utility Revenue Refunding Bonds Series 2003 and Combined Utility Revenue Refunding Bonds Series 2006 and has incurred a loan from the Georgia Environmental Financing Authority. And whereas the city proposes issuing its Combined Utility Revenue Refunding Bonds Series 2016 in the principal amount of $16,770,000 for the purpose of refunding the Series 2003 bonds and the Series 2006 bonds and refinancing the GFA loan and for paying the costs of issuing the Series 2016 bond. And whereas the Series 2016 bond will be secured by a first lien on the net revenues of the utility system, and whereas the city proposes to provide for the issuance from time to time and under certain circumstances as described herein of additional bonds, ranking as to lien on the net revenues on a parity with the lien thereon securing the Series 2016 bond. And whereas the city proposes to authorize the execution, delivery, and performance of an escrow deposit agreement dated as of December 1, 2016 by and between the city and the Bank of New York Mellon Trust Company as escrow agent relating to the refunding of the refunded bonds. And whereas the city proposes to adopt a policy with respect to its tax-exempt debt, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Monroe, Georgia, it is hereby ordained by the authority of the same as follows. Article 1, Definitions, Section 1, Definitions, Additional Bonds, Authorized Denominations, Bond Registrar, Bonds, City, Closing Fund Custodian, Code, Construction Fund Custodian, Consulting Engineers, Creditor Liquidity Facility, Debt Service Account, Debt Service Coverage Ratio, Debt Service Requirement, Debt Service Reserve Requirement, Debt Service Reserve Surety Bond, Disclosure Agreements, Engineering Report, Escrow Agent, Escrow Agreement, Expansion Fund, Fiscal Year, Funds, GFA Loan, Government Obligations, Gross Revenues, Income Available for Debt Service, Interest Payment Due, Maximum Annual Debt Service Coverage Ratio, Maximum Annual Debt Service Requirement, Modified Gross Revenues, Net Revenues, Ordinance, Paying Agent, Permitted Investments, Person, Projects, Purchaser, Record Date, Refunded Bonds, Renewal and Extension Fund Depository, Reserve Account, Revenue Bond Law, Revenue Fund Depository, Series 2003 Bonds, Series 2006 Bonds, Series 2016 Bonds, Sinking Fund Custodian, Sinking Fund Investments, Sinking Fund Year, State, Subordinate Debt, System, Variable Rate. Section 2, Interpretation. Article 2, Authorization, Form, and Registration of the Series 2016 Bond. Section 1, Authorization. Section 2, Terms of the Series 2016 Bond. Section 3, Execution and Form of the Series 2016 Bond. Section 4, Required Authentication and Proof of Ownership. Section 5, Bond Registrar, Transfer and Exchange. Section 6, Lost, Destroyed, and Mutilated Series 2016 Bonds. Section 7, Blank Series 2016 Bond. Section 8, Cancellation of the Series 2016 Bond. Article 3, Prepayment of Series 2016 Bond before maturity. Section 1, Optional Prepayment. Section 2, Mandatory Sinking Fund Prepayment. Section 3, Notice of Prepayment. Section 4, Effective Additional Bonds. Section 5, Effective Call for Prepayment. Article 4, Custody and Application of Proceeds and Construction Fund. Section 1, Closing Fund, Application of the Series 2016 Bond Proceeds. Section 2, Construction Fund. Section 3, Investment of Construction Fund Monies. Article 5, Revenues and Funds, Pledge of Security, Additional Bonds, and Defeasance. Section 1, Creation of Funds. Sub A, the Revenue Fund. Sub B, the Sinking Fund, and transfers to the Debt Service Account. Sub C, Sinking Fund, and transfers to Reserve Sub-Accounts. Sub D, Subordinate Debt. Sub E, the Renewal and Extension Fund. And Sub F, the General Fund. Section 2, Rate Covenants. Section 3, Additional Bonds. Section 4, Defeasance. Section 5, Lien on Funds. Section 6, Sinking Fund Investments. Section 7, Revenue Fund and Renewal and Extension Fund Investments. Section 8, Transfers from the Revenue Fund. Article 6, Depositories of Monies and Securities for Deposits. Section 1, Depository, Sinking Fund Custodian, Security for Deposits. Section 2, Paying Agent Instructions. Section 3, Successor Custodians and Depositories. Article 7, Particular Covenants and Non-Arbitrage Covenants. Section 1, Payment and Limited Obligation. Section 2, Operation of the System, Rules and Regulations. Section 3, Liens and Easements. Section 4, Sale of Assets. Section 5, Insurance. Section 6, Separate Accounts. Section 7, Financial Statements. Section 8, Tax Covenants. Section 9, Continuing Disclosure. Article 8, Events of Default and Remedies. Section 1, Events of Default. Section 2, Acceleration. Section 3, Remedies. Section 4, Restoration. Section 5, Equal Benefits. Section 6, Non-Exclusivity of Remedies. Section 7, no waiver. Section 8, surety defaults. Article 9, supplemental proceedings. Section 1, adoption of supplemental proceedings. Section 2, notice. Section 3, required approval. Section 4, legal action. Section 5, incorporation. Section 6, proof of ownership. Article 10, miscellaneous provisions. Section 1, severability. Section 2, ordinance constitutes a contract. Section 3, validation. Section 4, repealer. Section 5, escrow agreement. Section 6, authorization of execution of 8038 sub G tax and non-arbitrage certificate. Section 7, approval of policy. Section 8, general authority and ratification. Section 9, appointment of the paying agent, bond registrar, custodians, and depositories. Section 10, paying agent, bond registrar. Section 11, waiver of the bond audit. Section 12, sale of Series 2016 bond to the purchaser. This constitutes the first reading, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item 3 is airport concert. I think the airport committee and stuff has brought some attention to maybe having a concert at the airport. We've got a person that would like to kind of do that, so instead of just going back and forth on the phone, just inviting them to come, give them about 15 minutes to present their what they want to do. So with that, I'll call Jerry Golden to the stand.
Mayor, I'd like to make a few comments.
Okay, while he's getting ready.
Seen a lot of vision tonight for the city of Monroe, and I think we're going in the right direction with the things Sadie's brought up, the plans. You know, years ago, we brought up Christmas lights. We brought up Friday night concerts, and you know, I want to thank you for organizing a airport committee, because we got a resource at the airport right now that we're not utilizing 100%. You know, we got a great opportunity, and I started looking at it, being on the airport committee liaison about a year ago, about bringing money into the city. You know, we need money for the airport, and just had an idea and trying to figure out how to pull it off. I contacted Golden Production, which is used to doing this kind of thing, this operation. They've done it all over the United States. And so we looked at it with the airport committee. The airport committee voted on it. They voted yes to move forward with it. And I wanted the council to hear it. And so, Jerry, I'll let you take over.
The videos, yeah, there you go. No, a little bit. Let's try it. Is that me or is that them? Some of you may not know, Golden Productions is about 10 years old, and mayor and council, some of you guys know us, some of you don't. We've been in the entertainment business for a very long time, and we've tried to help so many people we have across the country. We have recommendation letters that we've actually presented to several of the council members here. And Rick, hang on just a second, I think he's still working on the slide up top. So as far as our background and what we've done for our expertise, the recommendations that we have are also from Walton County, with Walton County Schools, Walton EMC, and a few others. We've been with Walton EMC now for, what, 6 years almost, right? Doing their programs out at the horse park. And for the Walton County Schools, Loganville High School, we do the graduations every year and a few other things for them. And we've got some other schools in Walton County also. We were approached, I guess about a year ago, and I was going to show you the timeline, but the slides aren't working. But I have a timeline that I also sent to the city attorney, along with the layouts of the program. And when Mr. Jimmy came to us, he said, Jerry, I got an idea. Do you think it'll work? I said, well, I don't know. Share it with me. So when he did, we thought, Jimmy, that's a big undertaking, you know, for somebody to do. And I said, we can handle it because we handle shows like that. But what he had proposed was that to get revenue back for the airport, he wanted to come up with something that would help the city of Monroe, the county of Walton County, and for the next 3 to 5 years, maybe longer, have something that's continuous every year that would benefit the airport and, of course, the city of Monroe. I put some numbers together, and I think I shared that with the city attorney. Not the documented copies yet, because we're still assessing things and still putting things together. But the idea was for every year, a group to come to Monroe, and we do a concert at the airport. And the airport committee, when we talked to Larry and a few other folks that we went to breakfast with, the role for those guys to get permission from the FCC and a few other folks was something that they would handle, but seemed to think that revenue coming back to the airport would be awesome. The long-term goal that we were told about was that for the Georgia football games, people could fly into the Monroe Airport and take a shuttle to the games and come back and use Monroe Airport as that and advertise, you know, for a big deal for the Monroe Airport. So that's pretty much how all this happened. You know, I've heard a lot of people talk about and list that, you know, we are promoters. We are not a promoter. We just try to help. We do have contacts with several artists across the nation. And because we have an office in Nashville, we are in tune with a lot of folks and spend a lot of time with people, and we try to book events that can benefit either a city, a county, an arena, or a complex, anything to that effect. So when we approached a certain artist for this event, I have a letter that I actually showed the mayor and showed city manager Ron, and they said, you know, Jerry, it's got to go before city council. So I want to take now, if you don't mind, and I know I have my time is short here, I want to show you some of these. I got to step away from you. This is pretty much everything I was saying about that. is one of the bands that we have for the season. That's the Oak Ridge Boys. We have those also. Aaron Tippett. Well, that's just a taste of some of the shows that we do every year. Some of the clients that, of course, Jimmy has the recommendation letters along with Ron. He's got some. We've been with some of these guys for 6, some of them for 9 years. And they've allowed us to become a company that can help people. And a couple of bottom line things that I want to nail for you. When we were approached about this event for the airport, we immediately started a timeline. And from July up until the concert time for next year, which would be either September 1st weekend or the second weekend in September, was what was proposed. And of course, you had to look at Georgia and Georgia Tech football games to make sure that was okay too. But if concert was on a Friday night, then of course Saturday would be the football game. But Mr. Rosenthal actually has a copy of our timeline from when we first started and the layout. And I kind of wanted to show you the layout real quick. My time is a little short here. But the layout for the airport, we actually did an assessment as far as how far the airport was from the city, and then we just started laying out. And there's a few people here tonight that actually would be responsible for some of the questions that have come up. That's our proposal for the layout for the concert for that day. If you'll notice, the stage plot is actually not on the runway, but it's actually, if you come in from, I guess, the main street that runs in front of the airport, it'll be to the left, which you see the little square red box with the yellow writing in it. And for a concert like this, you can name your number from 10,000 to 15,000 to 20,000. As far as airport closure, that's something I think the airport committee's been looking at. There was a price given of what it would cost to do that. We just heard about that today. As far as routes to get in, let me introduce some of these guys, which will be a part of that. Of course, Nancy handles most of the logistics. This is Nancy here. Judy actually would handle the security with the police and several of the security issues, the traffic, and as far as ticketing, Judy would take care of that. John and Jeff would actually take care of our logistics when it comes to making sure everything's in its proper place. Rick would actually take care of most of the stage presence stuff, and then my Nashville office would be here to make sure that all the acts, and there would be 4 acts if you decide to do this, with 3 opening acts and then the main act. As far as the trash cleanup, there is a company that sponsors things that we do, which is a trash company that does that for us. We have a cleaning company that actually is with us also as a partner that does the cleanups for that. As far as barricades, the barricades would come with the stage and what we have for the barricades. What I tried to do when Mr. Richardson mentioned it to me was take all the pressure off and what it would take for the city to get involved with it and let those guys let you enjoy your concert. Because a lot of times you don't get to do that. I know with your town events or with your downtown concerts and all that. But this was a chance for us to show you that Monroe's a good place to do something like this when they actually came to us and asked us. For the next 3 to 5 years, this could be a possibility for every year. We anticipate the airport committee, with the numbers that we put together, can possibly gain $80,000 a year off of this concert, which is an anticipated cost. I'll have all those costs breakdown for you later on. So, any questions? Did I forget anything? Did anything else?
I just wanted, one thing that I wanted to mention is that we have the resources to pull this off. It's up to the city to do the backing financially and ticket-wise. You can get a portion of ticket sales as your profit. I mean, there's different ways that this can work. You can do it as a community event. You're responsible for all the fees, or the airport committee, or somebody is. But you can do it as a community event, as I said, and just invite the public with no tickets. You can do tickets. There are so many options that you can make this work if you really want this to do. You have the economic impact of bringing people that never been to Monroe before. Make your city a shining star, because the artist that we have in mind for this is going to have that impact on your city. It's going to bring people from a lot of this, definitely surrounding areas within the state of Georgia, and I wouldn't even expect outside of Georgia. But it's in your hands. We're here to support you. We're here to do whatever we can to make this happen for you. As we said, we do have the resources to pull this off, and we've done it successfully in other parts of this state, as well as nationwide. We've had events. So I just want you to take that into consideration when you make your decisions. So thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Mayor, that's it from us. And I'm sure there's some questions that you need to ask.
I think that probably the couple of the biggest things that we need to share with the council before we hear from a few department heads. What is the cost? What is the city liable for if they even decided to do this? What is the cost of bringing this big event here?
I think the first thing we have to do is the letter that we drafted, the band has to say yes to it first. And then they will say, this is how much we'd like to do the concert for. And then 10%, in February to get them here for the date that we've requested. And we would cover some of that cost, as far as the 10%. As far as the price, this band has actually performed for $250,000. They perform for $100,000, sometimes $50,000. So until they make the decision to say, yes, we would definitely like to come to Monroe, Georgia, which we've already contacted them and talked to them, and then they come back to us once we make an offer, if we want to do that, or they say, Jerry, we'll come to Monroe for this. That hasn't happened yet because it hasn't been approved that you want to do this first. We are not bringing this to you as a promoter. We're bringing it to you to say, this can happen. And we can make this happen for you, if that's what you want to do, and for the airport committee that's here tonight.
But saying that still didn't give us any kind of price. I mean, we can't do a blind.
I got that.
Yeah,
I get that.
I mean, give me. Is it
if they say
$200? Is it $400,000? I mean,
no,
what is it? I mean, give
I anticipate $25,000 as a 10% deposit for what those guys would do.
So we
talked to them about
$250,000 that the city would have to be liable for. Mm-hmm.
Now, your ticket sales, which I've drawn up a draft with the ticket sales we anticipate, plus the investors that we have investing in this, plus the sponsors that we have invested in this, out of pocket, we think is $25,000. And that's not necessarily all coming from you, but it comes from us also. That's how much we want it to happen, is because we're going to partner up with you and say, we'll cover some of the costs of that.
Well, but also, I mean, there's a ballpark. just to give you a ballpark, and this is just preliminary, if the band goes, and if, you know, $500,000 is what we anticipate this costing. You will, as I said, if you charge ticket prices, you'll get revenue back on the tickets.
Right.
But if you wanted a ballpark, 500,000 is what, from what we've tried to work the numbers, that would be, yes, that's
I mean,
the outlay.
if you didn't do anything, the city's liable for that.
Correct.
I mean, so,
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's liable for that.
well, I mean, if you sign a contract, you
Well, no,
Well,
because
that's not the
the only thing you would be liable for would be for the band itself. Because if for some reason you decide after you sign that contract with the band that, excuse me, that it's not going to happen, you would be responsible for that money for the band.
Okay.
Everything else is, you know, that can be canceled without any fees attached to it.
Let me just give you a couple of the breakdowns that we have for financials. For 300 VIPs, we had 200 VIPs gold, 100 silver. The beer gardens, we have some of those listed on here as far as ticket prices, from 10 to 15 to 20,000 people. And then as far as the shuttle buses, the security, which is under duty.
Everything that he's mentioned, we've incorporated into that $500,000.
That's correct. That's correct.
And again, it's going to fall back on, you'll recoup money from concessions, you'll recoup money from the beer garden, and as I said, tickets, merchandise sales, if you do any of those things. So you have the opportunity, perhaps, to recoup.
yeah, I just want the council to know what kind of money we're talking
And we actually would hold a liquor license for the beer gardens. I'm not sure your ordinances will let you do that. I don't know.
Yeah, there's logistics that have to be worked out with that, but I mean, that's our best
Right,
guesstimate.
I know we're just talking about.
Right, and as I said, it's our best guesstimate is what we put together. And he mentioned, a lot of it's going to depend upon the band. We went as what we estimated they were going to cost us, and we're hoping for the best on that.
Okay.
But I think, Jimmy, you might want to read the letter that we proposed to the band. We've already met with the band. The member was very excited about coming here. And then they said, Jerry, we'll work it out with the logistics, but we just got to make sure this is what you want, that you want to do this. So, as far as figures, some of these figures, 80,000, plus more money, depending on what we want to apply to.
Another thing we thought of is if you decided to charge for parking, you could recoup some of your fees there. I mean, there's
and people are going to buy a ticket for the artist that we think that wants to come. So.
Mayor, somebody that wrote this, and I think it was Mr. Ryder, in our background information for the agenda, he says financial guarantees of up to $250,000 would have to be provided to book the event.
No. When you say a guarantee for that $250,000, only 10% of whatever the band's going to charge. And that's if the band charges $250,000, we'll do 10% of that. That's what that is. But I think you first have to decide this is what you want to do, and then we go back to the band and say, they definitely want this to come to the city. And multiple years that you want to do that.
Are you kind of hoping that they'll do it, and it might be next fall, it might be the following year, it might be we don't know when? Because that band just seems to me like it'd be really hard to get here.
They actually are not hard to get. And I can't share with you right now.
I just don't want us to go through a ton of work from department heads and attorneys and everything, and then have the band not be available to come.
That's not true.
They have been approached already, and we have confirmed a timetable for them to be in this year. And
2017, Labor Day weekend or the weekend after.
September. We've at least nailed down some type.
Right, but how does it work in this industry? I mean, how do you get a commitment from a band?
Once the band says yes, they'll send us a contract.
Well, can't they do that and then we'll look at the contract?
No, because they book so many things.
It's a different.
You'll be on the T-shirt. I mean, you get on the tour. It's just the industry, the way it works. You can call a band, but a band of this caliber was an A band of this caliber. you approach them and say, we sure would like for you to come here. What do you think?
It's different than a tour. Okay,
Right.
this is what they
It's a
consider
one-off.
a one-off.
For several years.
It's, so the band themselves are booking this. It's not a tour manager that's booking a whole tour that's going from the East Coast to the West Coast or anything like that. This is completely separate. So that's why you have to sign it on now, so that when they book their routing, that they have those dates available that they've already committed to.
All the things that have to go into this, you mentioned ticket sales, but you also concession booths and parking and, you mentioned security, but all the things that happen, is that you're proposing that your organization would do all those things?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
We sure can. Matter of fact, we have it listed already of, how many shuttle buses, how many golf carts, how many officers would be needed.
So even though you're not a promoter, you would promote this?
No,
No, you would
we're not
promote it
promoting it,
through
we're supporting. If you want this band, we're willing to
We'll
come
make
in
it happen.
and
We
make
can
it
make it
happen. But we're,
A promoter would call you and say, I want this band to come to your city.
and then they're gonna take all your money.
Well, I understand, but
We don't do that. And, for us, we were approached to kind of pull this off. We didn't have any idea that it was even thought about. And we said, yeah, we can pull this off for you, but it's really what you want. So it's nothing we're proposing to you to say, we want to bring this band here and make things happen. We can get the band here per your request of saying, Jerry, this seems to be something we'd like to do. Yep, we can do that. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now we've kind of, I guess, done a little digging to see if we could actually do this thing. So I just want to hear from different department heads and give us the pros and cons and, can we do it? Chris, you want to just give us?
Yeah, from, I guess here in the possible revenues of 80,000, I guess from a city and an airport perspective, it concerns me greatly that, there are added insurance requirements that we've got to look at for the actual facility itself. Right now, we've got a per occurrence of $5 million and a total aggregate of $10 million. And speaking with Bob Seville today, I think the added cost, they couldn't actually quote us a price on what it would be for this couple of day event or week event until they actually saw a plan. But his comment was that it would be a fairly substantial cost to increase the insurance at the place. And then from, just the added liability of that, I think there's also a large safety concern, I think, at the airport, just based on the crowd, based on our facilities that we hold there. I think there's a great risk to the damage of what we actually have there, be it personal property of pilots that have planes and hangars, be it our actual hangars, our fuel farm. I mean, we've got a 10,000 gallon avgas fuel farm sitting right there on the property. Runways, lights, the few business owners that we have out there to close the airport, I think it would hurt them. And then on top of that, you're looking at, you've got to have their buy-in 100% for the FAA to approve it. And then there are preparation costs. And I'd asked Mark Counts from Barge Wagner, Sumner Cannon to come tonight and discuss the guidelines that we've got to meet just for the FAA to even consider closing the airport. So I think there's some additional costs we need to consider, and I'm gonna let Mark step up and go through the guidelines that we have to meet to actually have the FAA consider this.
Good evening. I'm not here in favor or against this proposal at all.
Seeking information.
I am just, as your airport consultant, just to give you the requirements that would be necessary in order to get this information to the Georgia DOT. This type of airport closure does happen. It doesn't happen a lot for an event like this, but the The first thing that has to happen is you have to make a formal request to the Georgia Department of Transportation. The second thing is you have to put together a safety and security plan for the event itself. Thirdly, you have to put together an operations plan. We have to have an event plan as well as sketches for where all the parking, what the areas that would be permitted open space to be used and not used. Of course, we would have to have documentation that the airport would be receiving a financial benefit from the event and where this money would be going in the future. How would that money be spent back into the airport? Of course, you got your insurance and your liability information, and as well as the submittal of the FAA Form 7460. So there is prep involved in getting all this information together. I've seen figures from 10 to 15,000 just to get this type of information to be submitted for approval or a denial. So, there is that upfront cost.
We actually have some of that for you.
Okay.
The layout, plus the agenda for the program.
Right. Yes, I mean, that would be a lot of coordination. Whoever did it, man, even staff could put this stuff together. But again, that's going to take their time to put it together as well.
Okay. Any questions?
Mark, there's one issue that was raised, just if you could highlight to the council. When we do projects out at the airport, there's generally this grant and funds from FAA and
Correct.
national, local.
Correct.
Can you comment on sort of a non-aviation event like this and what impact, if any, it might have on future FAA grants as part of our assurances that we have to make as an FAA-related operator?
It wouldn't impact any future funding, but you have to make sure that the money that is generated by this event can only be used on projects that are associated with the airport going forward. Now, it could be maintenance items or capital improvement items, but as long as that money remained on the airport side.
And then just one other one on the application. You said these events of this type happen. Are those one-day closures at the airport or multi-day?
For an example, down in Jekyll Island, Georgia, they have what they call the Shrimp and Grits Festival. They closed the airport, I think it's like 3 days, but they only use that airport for parking. So they're very restricted on where people wander on this airport. They have barricades that lead them on and off. Once they park the car, they're pretty much escorted to the shuttle buses to take them to the actual event. So I take it with this event, it's same thing. So, but it's a 3-day closure for that.
And the paperwork of this that we got showed looked like about 6 days of both load in, load out, and the show event. What about a multi-day event like that, a longer closure? Is that something that FAA generally?
Now, if I can clarify that, on those 6 days, that's out of the perimeter of the runway space and where the stage is going. The stage comes in the day before the event, and then we tweak it on that day, and then the band comes in for their sound checks. The day is shut between 2, 3, 4, 5. Gates open at 6. Concert starts at 7. That's pretty much the way that schedule goes.
So you would basically be looking at probably just minimum 3-day closure.
Right. So, and Judy, you can make a comment about that from the security aspect. 3 days, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Because cars won't come into the airport sections, which is the field for separate ways to come in. That won't happen until day 7. Yeah. But you'll still have your food garden and your food court coming in, and beer gardens coming in.
Of course, you still got, I mean, you got all your lights, your runway, taxi red lights, which are, very open. All that would have to be covered with, I guess traffic cones or, and, of course, any damage, you're going to have to indemnify Georgia DOT as well as FAA, because they will not come back and help you pay for any repairs to any of the equipment there. So that's just a FYI caution point.
All right. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
My question, does it have to be done at the airport?
Ms. Malcolm, the reason the airport committee, I think, contacted us was so that the revenue would go back to the airport and be at that location where the money's going to go back to the renovate. So it could be done anywhere, but then the airport's a prime location for the concert to be in the same place every year. And then, of course, if you went to naming rights of that airport for band members, that also would be some reason why the future would be better for them to get that to the place.
I didn't catch that part. Was that proposed the airport and name for the group?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Logan, you got
Just,
financial?
well, circling back around to the total cost, I understand the 10% deposit makes sense. Let's say we went through with this whole deal. Concert's going to happen. Is the city responsible for cash flowing this whole thing up front?
We will actually take care of, with our staff, all the monies that come in through the tickets, the ticket partner that we have, which does major festivals across the nation. We just met with them in Nashville and told them what has been requested to see if we could do something like that. But they handle everything when it comes to the finances for the tickets and everything.
So we wouldn't be on the hook, to book a liability, which is normally what I would have to do for something of this magnitude. Book a liability against the airport for X amount of dollars once we get everything hammered out.
The band wouldn't come unless they were guaranteed. They wouldn't put it on their calendar unless they were guaranteed to get
That's
paid.
correct. That's correct.
250 or whatever, 400 or whatever.
We anticipate it's not going to be that much.
I know. So somebody's on the hook for that money.
Yeah. But the coolest part about, I think, the naming rights of what we're thinking, I'm going to share something with you that is always a possibility, happens everywhere. Sometimes when there's a band who has members of a certain place where the band goes, the money actually, they say, we'd like to give this money back to our city because we love them just that much. And that's anticipated in this situation. And we haven't gone back to the band yet until you decide to do it. And then we'll go back to the band and say, Monroe City Council met, and Jimmy, you might could help me in this situation with the letter that we wrote. You want to read that letter and just kind of lay it out what it says? Or you want to read that?
Just to touch on what you had mentioned, yes, you would be liable if we had 0 ticket sales and the band showed up and you have production costs and things like that. Our expectation is that it's going to come out of your ticket sales. Your ticket sales are going to have that revenue to pay for all of those.
So you've got ticket sales, sponsorship commitment letters. Is all of this indemnified so that we're not assuming true liability? I mean, so let's say
No, because
let's say
you're going to be ultimately signing the contract with the band, not us. Right. I mean,
okay.
So to speak.
So it is the city's.
So yeah, it is a city event. It's not a Golden Productions event. It is a city event or the airport event or wherever it is, but it's not us.
Let me read this letter for you. This is a letter that we wrote. It says here, hello Lane, and Lane's actually the guy we're working with that actually is the guy that's on the tour with the band. He says, I said, just want to take a few minutes and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us in Nashville. When Gudis, which Mr. Gudis runs our Nashville office for Golden Productions, when Gudis shared, they had a chance to mention to this particular person what we wanted to do and could see the heartfelt emotions in his eyes. We were so moved in our spirit with emotions ourselves. We are very excited that this person recognizes a great opportunity to be a part of a hometown memorial for his family. The pleasure of naming the Walton Monroe Airport, if possible, is an honor for this group. Hosting a concert every year for the next 3 to 5 years is very exciting and fruitful for Monroe, Georgia. We would enjoy a commemorative concert around Labor Day weekend every year on Friday night, and then we want fans to stay in this person's hometown and the surrounding cities for a Georgia football on Saturday, somewhat of a music football weekend. We can, of course, enjoy other dates suggested from you, and it will be greatly appreciated. We know this would be an awesome experience for family and a lot of local fans. We have sponsors considered for expenses, but cannot approach finances until a date is approved. After expenses are paid on the event, proceeds would go back into the airport expansion and renovation. Thank you again so much for your time and consideration. Signatures below are, and I've named the signatures, and there's 8 signatures that would go on this letter that goes to the band.
What's expected ticket price?
The ticket prices we anticipate is $35 and up. I think it's what we're looking at, right, Nancy? 25 and up?
Yeah, 25 and up.
But they would vary depending on which section of the...
What's the average ticket price?
$25.
And the average ticket price is $25.
It's going to be general admission 20, what our expectation is. The band has to always have a say in that as well.
That's correct.
$25 is what we're looking for as general admission, and then we put together some, what we call VIP packages, which were more costly, but included more.
So 20,000 people attended, you're still at the $500,000 gross, and I think you said that the...
That's just for general admission, not counting your sponsors and your VIPs.
Yeah.
And
concessions and beer
things like that.
So you can make the $500,000.
And that's, your call too on ticket prices. This was our suggestion because we didn't want to, make it, if it's a community event, we didn't want to say it's a $50 ticket, even though you probably could get $50. That's going to be your call. This was our estimated best guess.
Because the band's going to ask, Jerry, what are ticket prices?
They will have a say in what they're going to want to see advertised. Because they don't want to devalue themselves. If you have another concert going on in South Carolina and they're $55, they want to make sure that they're still competitive.
I just looked at it backwards, I guess. The letter's great, but that letter's from us. I just feel like there should be a letter from them saying that, you know what, we are interested in coming to Monroe, and then we can stay up here till 10 o'clock every night talking about it.
I'll go back to the bank and see if they want to do that, but they can get a full price anywhere. But we're asking for a different price for a hometown deal.
But we don't know that,
No.
And the first question they had, because I already mentioned that, and they said, well, Jerry, do they know that they will make a lot of money off of us coming to their city? And I said, yeah, but we just have to go back to the council and see what they think.
I just feel like we're spinning our wheels.
Well, that's true, but they will not commit until we have, a formal.
I just don't think we're going to get a vote on it. Just lack of information. I feel like we should have.
We just gathered information in just a few more minutes, and we're gonna, because, no, we can't vote on it tonight, because,
No, I know that. I'm just saying I feel like that we should make sure the band wants to come to Monroe.
I wish I could announce who it is.
The band wants to come.
Oh, you can't?
No, we cannot.
I wish I could tell all about the ties to the local community they were born and raised to.
No, Jimmy, I get it. I just don't want to everybody put all this effort into it, and then they are playing in L.A. that week.
No. They're here. And once they commit, they said then
they haven't committed to anything.
Right, no, they
because you haven't said they can come.
But they have.
But let me ask you, Jerry, if we got to that point where we voted yes, if we want to do it, okay? If we said we want to do this, can we say contingent upon this particular band coming for a maximum of this amount of money? Is that what you're looking for? I mean, I'm not sure I know what
I think first thing you need to do is decide you want this to happen.
Except we want it to happen if this band can come.
Yeah. And the band knows the date, but I think the letter from the city, it doesn't have to be that one. That's one that I drafted just because we've already talked to them. And, and the heart feeling in that letter is exactly the way they were about it.
But I hear what Jim's saying and I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think I'm hearing from the airport committee.
I mean, if you want.
But,
And I guess I'm not sure though what the ultimate thing is. If this council says we want to do this, what are we